My name is Harper Collins. I'm 31 years old, and for the past decade, I've been running Sunrise Poultry Ranch, 300 acres of prime farmland in rural Georgia that my grandfather built from nothing. That Tuesday morning changed everything. I was driving to Atlanta for a supplier convention when I realized I'd forgotten the estate documents I needed to review. Critical paperwork that couldn't wait. So I flipped the truck around, tires kicking up gravel as I raced back down the county roads. The house felt empty when I walked in. Too quiet. Everyone should have been out in the fields by now. But then I heard it, a voice crackling through the baby monitor we'd left on the kitchen island. My sister had dropped off her infant the night before, and we'd forgotten to switch off the receiver. My father's voice cut through the static, sharp and calculated. Transfer goes through Friday, 2.5 million, clean wire. Nobody traces it back to us. My mother responded, her tone anxious but complicit. And Harper? She'll be in Atlanta until Thursday. We'll have everything moved before she even realizes. I felt my legs go weak. My chest tightened like someone had wrapped steel bands around my ribs. That's when I grabbed my phone and hit record. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it twice. Whatever came next, I needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof. If this story just made your heart stop, hit that subscribe button, because what I discovered next tore my entire world apart. The memory of that morning breakfast felt like a lifetime ago now. Dad, Marcus Collins, stood at the stove making his famous biscuits and gravy, the smell filling every corner of the kitchen. Mom Diane Collins hummed while setting out mason jars of homemade preserves. My younger brother Tyler wandered in late, hair still messy, grabbing food without a word before slouching into his chair. A decade earlier, when Grandpa Joe collapsed in the equipment barn from a sudden heart attack, Dad pulled me aside. His eyes were red. His voice was steady. "This land is our legacy, Harper. It's in our blood. We protect it together." Back then, I believed him with everything I had. He taught me the business from the ground up. How to select the best breeding stock. How to negotiate with distributors. How to read market trends and weather patterns. Mom handled the books, staying up late balancing spreadsheets under the desk lamp. Tyler joked that I was the golden child while he'd just ride my coattails. We'd all laugh. The whole family felt invincible. Every day started before dawn. I'd check the barns at 5, making sure temperature controls kept the younger birds warm. By 7, we'd load trucks 200 birds heading to restaurants across 3 counties. Staff meetings happened at 9 in the equipment shed, everyone gathering while I distributed schedules and updated projections. Dad would lean against the tractor, arms crossed, nodding approval when numbers looked strong. Thanksgiving season was our Super Bowl. We'd process extra inventory, package premium cuts for grocery chains, and host our legendary harvest celebration the weekend before the holiday. 70 neighbors would pack into the main barn under string lights, while whole birds roasted on open spits. Smoke filled the rafters. Kids ran wild between hay bales. Mom served pecan cobbler to everyone who walked through the door. Dad would take the microphone every year, telling stories about Grandpa, starting with just 50 birds and a dream. People would clap, some would cry. It felt like we were part of something sacred. Last year, we closed the books 20% higher than the year before. I printed the financial report and slid it across the dinner table. Dad studied the numbers, then broke into this massive grin. He squeezed my shoulder and said, "You're running this operation better than I ever could, kid." Mom grabbed my hand under the table, eyes shining with quiet pride. Tyler raised his soda can in a mock toast, claiming he deserved credit for eating the profits. Even the off-season had rhythm. Spring meant ordering chicks from the hatchery. Summer meant maintaining the land. Fall brought county fairs where we sold smoked sausages to tourists. Dad handled all the equipment greasing machinery, patching roofs before storm season. Mom managed payroll, always rounding up employee hours to give everyone a little extra. Tyler helped when he felt like it, mostly hauling supplies or power washing pens, then disappearing to play video games until the next chore. Our community connections ran deep. The local co-op shared veterinary services. Neighbors showed up with casseroles after Grandpa died. They brought chainsaws when tornadoes ripped through our fences. Dad repaid every favor lending equipment, donating birds to church dinners. Mom taught the local 4-H kids about poultry care, showing them how to candle eggs under her lamp. Tyler charmed judges at the county fair, winning ribbons he never practiced for. Bank statements came quarterly. I reviewed every line. Revenue climbed steadily. Expenses stayed predictable. Dad would ask for printouts sometimes, suggesting we expand our smoker operation for mail order sales. Mom clipped coupons for bulk grain. Tyler floated ideas about branded merchandise but never followed through. Holiday preparation started in October. We'd hang the big roadside sign, "Fresh turkeys, reserve now." The barn got whitewashed, picnic tables hauled in, propane heaters tested. Dad rehearsed his speech, adding new stories about the year our flock escaped and marched straight through town. Looking back, every detail screamed stability, trust, family unity. Employees stayed for years. Customers pre-ordered seasons in advance. Industry groups invited me to speak at conferences. Dad bragged to suppliers that his daughter turned dirt and determination into gold. Mom framed our profit chart on the office wall next to Grandpa's first sale receipt. The night before that Atlanta convention, we ate leftover stew around the kitchen table. Dad raised his glass of iced tea and toasted another record year. Mom smiled softly. Tyler scrolled his phone but looked up long enough to nod. I genuinely believed we were untouchable. 3 generations working as one. The farm wasn't just property and livestock. It was proof that we belonged together. That blood meant something. God, I was so naive. I barely made it out of the house without my legs giving out completely. That baby monitor sat on the hallway table, its little green light blinking like it held every dark secret in the world. I pressed my back against the wall just outside their bedroom door, forcing myself to breathe slowly and let their voices wash over me through the speaker. Dad's tone was methodical. Clinical. Downloaded the signature software 3 nights ago. Practiced your loops until they're flawless. Printed the transfer authorization this morning. Bank appointment is set for next Monday. Mom's voice trembled. But the trust names Harper as sole heir. How do we override that? Dad cut her off smoothly. Hired an outside attorney. $50,000 cash under the table. He handles the legal gymnastics. No paper trail. He kept talking, mapping out every single step. Tyler had already signed off on the plan, getting his $50,000 in exchange for silence about finishing his degree. Mom's sob cracked through the air. What if Harper finds out? Dad brushed it off like swatting a fly. She's in Atlanta all week. Money hits the offshore accounts before she's even back in town. By the time she realizes, it'll be too late to stop. I hit record on my phone. My fingers felt numb. Cold. 3 full minutes of betrayal, captured in crystal clear audio. My knees wanted to buckle, but I locked them straight. I couldn't make a sound. Couldn't alert them that I was standing right there, listening to them destroy me. The monitor picked up papers rustling, Dad sliding documents into a folder, Mom pacing across the creaky floorboard she always complained about fixing. He laid out the timeline with military precision. Wire transfer initiates Thursday, clears Friday. By Monday, the gambling debts are wiped. New accounts offshore by Tuesday morning. Mom whispered concerns about the attorney's reliability. Dad reassured her with names of people he'd worked with on smaller deals years back. Tyler's role came up again, Dad reminding her that the kid needed the payout to finish school without drowning in student loans. I leaned closer to the monitor, my ear almost touching it, catching every single word. Dad described how he'd scanned my signature from old holiday cards, fed it into software, practiced the loops until they looked identical under magnification. Mom asked about witnesses. He explained that the notary owed him a favor from a land deal back in the 90s. Their entire plan hinged on speed. Strike while I was gone, move fast, cover tracks. The conversation shifted to backup plans. If the bank flagged anything suspicious, Dad had a story ready that I'd authorized everything remotely because the conference was overwhelming. Mom worried about email trails. He promised everything was routed through burner accounts set up months earlier. Tyler would provide an alibi if needed, claiming he'd handled paperwork while I traveled. I saved the audio file, labeled it Evidence 1. Then I crept downstairs on silent feet. The office door clicked shut behind me. I grabbed folders from the desk in one smooth motion. Then I called out loud enough for them to hear through the walls. Just checked into the hotel. Traffic was brutal, but I'm all settled in now. Dad's muffled acknowledgement floated down from upstairs. Satisfied. Relieved. Truck keys in hand, I backed out of the driveway slowly. Headlights off until the curve hid me from view. That recording played on loop in my mind, every word carved deeper. 2 miles down the county road, I pulled over. My hands were shaking so badly on the wheel that I could barely hold my phone steady. I forwarded the audio to a secure cloud drive that only I could access. No turning back now. The farm's entire future balanced on what I did next. Here's what my family didn't know about me, what they never bothered to ask. My best friend from college, Jessica Chen, had become a forensic accountant for a major firm in Charlotte. I called her at midnight. She answered on the second ring, voice groggy but alert when she heard the panic in my tone. I gave her the basics without names at first, just enough to hook her interest. She agreed to pull financial records first thing in the morning. No questions until we met in person. Mr. Harrison, our family attorney for 20 years, got the next text. Urgent consultation needed tomorrow. Trust integrity compromised. He replied within minutes, promising to clear his entire morning schedule. The plan solidified mile by mile as I drove. Gather ironclad proof. Freeze the assets. Confront them when everything was locked down tight. I merged onto the highway toward Atlanta, but the exit signs blurred through my building rage. That monitor's static echoed in my ears long after the signal faded. Dad's calm calculations. Mom's reluctant compliance. Tyler's greedy silence. They'd scripted my destruction while I packed for a fake business trip. The motel key scraped in the lock around 1 in the afternoon. I'd paid cash for 3 nights under Jessica's name, slipped the clerk an extra $40 to skip the ID verification, and hauled my stuff to room 18 inches the back corner. Door bolted, curtains drawn, laptop and charger spread across the wobbly table. At 3 sharp, I called Jessica. I need complete family banking records pulled. This is urgent. She didn't hesitate. Give me an hour. Files by tonight. I hung up and logged into the farm's security system cameras I'd installed after we lost equipment to theft last year. We had coverage everywhere. 4 in the main barn, 2 on the feed storage. 1 aimed at the office trailer. I rewound to 7 that evening and watched Dad march in with his laptop case. The printer hummed under the work lights. He spread blank authorization forms across the workbench, connected a portable scanner, and fed in samples of my old checks from the safe. Mom hovered near the barn door, arms crossed tight, glancing nervously toward the house. Dad adjusted the screen brightness, overlaid my signature from a scanned deposit slip, and printed multiple copies. He practiced the pen stroke twice on scrap paper before committing to the official transfer request form. My name looped perfectly across the line marked, Account Holder Authorization. Tyler showed up after dark in his beat-up pickup, headlights cutting through dust. Dad met him halfway to the grain silo, handed over a thick envelope, and they spoke in low tones I couldn't make out on camera. Tyler tucked the packet inside his jacket, nodded once, and drove off without entering the house. Mom finally stepped inside the barn, closed the sliding door, and helped Dad organize the stack into a manila folder labeled Urgent Sale Documents. I screenshot every frame, time-stamped, high resolution, Dad aligning the forged page under the lamp, Mom initialing the witness box, Tyler pocketing cash. The USB drive swallowed the images one by one, encrypted with a password only I knew. Jessica's email arrived at 8:45. Encrypted attachment, subject line simply read, clean. I downloaded it on the motel Wi-Fi, heart hammering as statements loaded. The joint account showed recent withdrawals matching Dad's gambling patterns, sports betting apps, casino transfers, plus a brand new savings account opened under Mom's maiden name. Tyler's student loan portal showed a massive payment that matched the envelope amount exactly. The camera feed stayed live. I watched Dad carry the folder back to the house, Mom trailing behind with a flashlight. They disappeared inside. Kitchen lights flicked on. I zoomed the office camera. Desk drawer left slightly open, printer still warm. I screenshot the serial number on the device proof it had produced the forgeries. Room service knocked with the sandwich I'd ordered for cover. I paid cash and kept watching. Tyler returned near midnight, slipping through the side gate to meet Dad on the porch. Quick exchange, Dad passing another thinner envelope, Tyler stuffing it deep in his pocket before driving off again. Mom watched from the doorway, twisting a dish towel between her hands. I created folders on my laptop. Signatures. Transfers. Payoffs. Each file built the case tighter. Jessica texted confirmation around 2 in the morning. More logs incoming at dawn, including offshore routing numbers your dad queried last month. I replied with a thumbs up, then switched back to the driveway camera. Dad loaded a briefcase into his truck at 3. Mom locked the house behind them as they left together. Night deepened, crickets loud through the thin motel walls. I exported video clips with timestamps, Dad printing at 7:12 p.m., Mom witnessing at 7:18 p.m., Tyler collecting payment at 10:47 p.m., and again at 12:03 a.m. Every piece synced across devices, an undeniable chain of evidence. USB backed up to the cloud, then I wiped the laptop cache clean. Sleep never came. I reviewed everything again, rehearsing the next day's moves in my head. Jessica would cross-check notary records. Mr. Harrison would draft the asset freeze order. The motel clock glowed red, 3:47 a.m. The barn lights finally went dark on my screen. I powered down everything, hid the drive in the Bible drawer, and stared at the ceiling. Every pixel burned behind my eyes. Dad's steady hand on that pen. Mom's nervous glance over her shoulder. Tyler's greedy grab. Dawn meant war. By Saturday morning, I'd transformed that motel room into a war room. Laptop open, editing software running, layering the master evidence file with precision. Text overlays appeared across keyframes. Forged signature, Marcus Collins in bold white letters. Transitions smoothed with professional fade-ins. Timestamps pulsing red for maximum impact. Audio levels balanced, so every single word cut through crystal clear. I emailed the complete package to Mr. Harrison with one sentence. Initiate trust asset freeze Monday morning at opening. Full fraud documentation attached. His reply came within 5 minutes. Acknowledged. Bank liaison contacted. Sunday lockdown confirmed. The camera feed showed me everything in real time. Dad and Mom hauled folding tables from storage, arranging them in neat rows inside the barn. String lights draped overhead like it was a wedding. They laughed about the guest list, debated cooler placement, acted like nothing in the world was wrong. Dad wiped sweat with his sleeve. Mom adjusted tablecloths decorated with autumn leaves. Tyler arrived mid-afternoon, backing his truck up to load plastic chairs. Dad clapped him on the shoulder, slipped yet another envelope into his hand. Tyler pocketed it smoothly before helping position the grill stations. Mom passed around lemonade, all three sharing jokes about last year's pie-eating contest winner. I felt nothing watching them, just cold, focused determination. I ordered a high-powered Bluetooth speaker, online weatherproof, 200-foot range, scheduled for pickup at dawn from a big box store in Atlanta, payment through an anonymous prepaid card. The device would flood the barn from a hidden position in the loft. Perfect. Mr. Harrison sent updates throughout the evening. Account freeze executes 9 a.m. Sunday, prior to event start, 0 withdrawals possible after that. I screenshot the confirmation, added it as the final slide bank seal stamped with the effective date glaring in official font. The master video file ran exactly 5 minutes. I tested it on loop. Not a single glitch. Barn preparation continued on camera. Dad tested the microphone feedback squealing until Mom adjusted volume levels. Tyler strung banner letters spelling Annual Collins Harvest Celebration across the rafters. They sampled barbecue sauces, Dad basting sample ribs over propane flames. I packed the truck in silence. Duffel bag. USB drives. The speaker reserved for pickup. Sleep came in short bursts. Alarm set for 4:30 a.m. When my eyes opened, my body was fueled purely by adrenaline. Sunday morning arrived cold and clear. I collected the speaker from the parking lot at dawn, tore open the box right there, and charged it through the truck's cigarette lighter on the drive home. Sunrise Poultry Ranch welcomed me back at 5:45 a.m., town still dark, barn lights glowing faintly through the cracks. I parked behind the equipment shed, slipped inside through the maintenance hatch, and climbed the ladder to the loft. The speaker positioned perfectly behind stacked hay bales. Paired to my phone, volume maxed. I whispered a test sound boomed crystal clear across the empty space below. Final rehearsal complete. Video file queued, finger hovering over play. Dad's voice would echo first, Mom's hesitation next, Tyler's whispered agreement sealing their fate. Guests scheduled to arrive at 10, asset freeze hitting at 9. Timing locked down perfectly. My truck idled outside, escape route ready if things went sideways. Dawn painted the sky pale orange, roosters stirring in distant coops. The barn stood fully prepped, my family completely oblivious to what was coming. 10 o'clock arrived right on schedule. 70 neighbors filed into the barn. Smoke from roasting meats curled thick through the air. Country music thumped through the sound system. Kids ran between tables already piled with food. Dad stepped onto the makeshift stage, microphone in hand. His voice boomed gratitude for 50 years of community support for Collins family farming. Applause rippled through the crowd, people smiling, laughing. That's when I stepped out from the loft stairs. Phone connected, thumb pressing play. The 5-minute audio file exploded through the speakers at maximum volume. Dad's voice detailing the signature forgery software, Mom questioning the trust loopholes, Tyler demanding his payout for staying silent. Every word echoed wall to wall, crystal sharp, timestamps flashing across the video overlay I'd synced to display on the barn's projection screen. Conversation died instantly. Complete silence except for that damning recording. Forks froze midair. Faces turned toward the hidden speakers. Confusion shifting rapidly to shock. Dad's face drained white. The microphone slipped from his grip, clattering loudly on the wooden platform. Mom collapsed against a table, shoulders heaving, napkin pressed to her mouth. Tyler bolted through the side door, boots crunching gravel, engine roaring to life, dust cloud trailing as he disappeared down the driveway. Mr. Harrison stepped onto the stage, legal documents raised high. Trust assets have been frozen as of 9 o'clock this morning. All accounts locked. Fraud litigation filed in county court. Law enforcement has been notified. Murmurs swelled into gasps, phones lifting to record, neighbors shifting uncomfortably, eyes darting between family members who now felt like strangers. I faced the crowd directly, my voice steady, clear. Effective immediately, I have no parents, no brother. This farm belongs to me per my grandfather's legal will, and it's staying that way. Dad dropped to his knees on the platform, hands reaching toward me, pleading for forgiveness through broken sobs. I turned my back, walked through the parted crowd. Nobody met my eyes. Chaos erupted outside. Guests departed in clusters, whispers trailing behind them, tires spinning on gravel. Dad sat slumped against the barn wall. Mom was led away by a cousin. Tyler's taillights were long gone. Mr. Harrison coordinated with deputies who arrived to secure files from the house. Evidence bags filled quickly. Official documentation photographed. Chain of custody established. 3 months later, everything was finalized in a quiet courtroom. Dad and Mom sold the family home to cover $400,000 in gambling debts. They downsized to a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Court ordered restitution from their remaining assets. The farm stayed untouched under trust protection. Dad took night shifts at the local feed mill. Mom waitressed at the highway diner. Our paths never crossed. Tyler disappeared completely. No forwarding address. College enrollment dropped. Phone disconnected. Rumors placed him bouncing around Charlotte, working odd jobs, couch surfing. His childhood bedroom stayed boxed in the attic, an untouched reminder of choices made. 6 months later, revenue climbed 30% under my new management protocols. I hired a professional operations manager from the regional co-op, implemented direct-to-consumer online sales, expanded our smoker production lines for nationwide shipping. Staff received performance bonuses, loyalty rewarded with real compensation. The barn hosted controlled community events only, trust rebuilt through transparency and accountability. This whole ordeal taught me something critical. Trust must be earned through consistent actions, never assumed because of blood relation. Family bonds crumble without honesty, but integrity can rebuild something even stronger. I stand on the porch most evenings now, watching the flock settle as the sun dips below the horizon, knowing this land endures because I fought to protect it. To anyone watching who's ever faced betrayal from the people closest to you, remember this. Silence can be your greatest weapon. Patience more powerful than rage. Sometimes the best response to being underestimated is simply proving them catastrophically wrong. They thought I was naive, trusting, easy to manipulate. They never saw me building an iron case right under their noses. My name is Harper Collins. My family tried to steal my birthright. Now they work minimum wage jobs, while I run $1 million operation. And honestly, justice feels pretty damn good. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family isn't defined by genetics, it's built on respect, honesty, and mutual support. Never mistake someone's kindness for weakness. Never assume silence means ignorance. And never forget, the person you betray today might be the one holding all the cards tomorrow. Protect what's yours with evidence, strategy, and unwavering resolve. Trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired, but dignity, once reclaimed, is yours forever.